Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you are not. I am EDJ, and last time we kind of learned about the end of the Gallic Wars. He quickly skimmed over Alesia and we just kind of got to the end of the wars, so obviously now we're going to be looking at the specifics of the in-depth battle of, the siege slash battle of Alesia, which is no doubt about to be super cool. I'm really excited. This is my personal favorite Caesar battle. It's just insane to me. The man deciding I'm gonna make a frickin' I'm about to make a wall, and then I'm about to build another wall, put myself in the middle, fight off, attacks from in and out. It's just completely insane to me. But I love it. I think it showcases Caesar's out of the box thinking perfectly. So yes, I'm really looking forward to seeing this, and yeah, overall I'm just really excited. So I want to get to this right now. Without any further ado, let's just learn about this epic battle. So if you want to watch the original video without me here, link's always out in the description. With that said, let's get to it, shall we?
Put yourself in this situation. You're the commander of an army. You're up against somebody with
yeah, this is a very ancient... Oh boy, 9 years? Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is old Historia Civilis. By the way, I don't mind personally because on my main channel called Edwin de Jesus, I was looking back at my oldest and most popular video, and I was shocked to hear the audio was so awful. Even I'm like, oh my gosh, like, obviously no one starts out completely perfect on YouTube. You get better with equipment and stuff. So by the way, I get it personally as a fellow guy who makes videos on YouTube. So I don't mind. Though obviously it is a bit jarring, right? But yeah, oh well, you gotta start from somewhere, right? Let's get to it.
Superior technology, but you have them slightly outnumbered. You are better supplied, but they are better disciplined. You've defeated them in a minor engagement in the past, but that was in an unusual situation, where you had cut their supply lines and they had acted foolishly. You have allies, but they're very far away, fighting battles of their own. Seriously consider this question. What would you do? This was Vercingetorix's situation in 52 B.C.E. His opponent was Julius Caesar. This was the Battle of Alesia. This is how Vercingetorix responded to this situation. He pulled his men back to a highly defensible hilltop fort. He sent out messengers to all of his allies, asking for reinforcements. His logic was this: if Caesar was foolish enough to attack the fort, Vercingetorix still held the high ground with superior numbers, and would cut him to pieces.
Your child needs these 3 key factors to get into an Ivy League or top 25 university.
If Caesar was foolish enough to wait around, Vercingetorix's reinforcements would arrive, and Caesar would be up against 2 armies instead of 1. You can see that Vercingetorix is trying his best to play into his strengths. Greater numbers? Let's amplify that by calling for reinforcements. Better supplied? Let's dig in and see if the enemy acts impulsively. So what went wrong? Over the course of his 7-year proconsulship, Caesar had been slowly tightening his grip on Gaul. He hadn't annexed any territory officially, only the Roman Senate could do that, but the Gauls contributed troops to Caesar's armies, supplied him with grain, and even handed over annual tribute. The Roman Senate may not have called it annexation, but it would have felt an awful lot like it to the Gallic people. As Caesar's grip on Gaul tightened, a conspiracy hatched between the regional Gallic leaders. They decided on a coordinated uprising across all of Gaul. This conspiracy coalesced around one man who was elected to lead the uprising, named Vercingetorix. Now we return to the scene of the battle. Vercingetorix outnumbered Caesar by about 1/3, and is sitting in a great defensive position. He has reinforcements on the way, but he doesn't know how many are coming or when they will get there. His men are well fed for the moment, but they seem intimidated by Rome's infantry, so he waits. Caesar closes in, and quickly gets to work besieging Alesia. This is already a little unorthodox. Caesar has a numerically inferior force, and is deep in enemy territory with shaky supply lines. Plus, being enemy territory, a Gallic army could be just over any horizon. Caesar was putting himself in a terribly vulnerable position, and he knew it. He begins to construct a set of inward-facing walls that ran an amazing 18 kilometers, circumventing the entire fort and hillside, cutting off any potential escape. They would have had to clear entire sections of forest just to construct it. These were not just some thrown-together fortifications either. These walls were 2 stories tall, with ladders and raised platforms.
Yeah, Caesar's engineers are just another level, man. Like I've said it before, but like Caesar put his engineers to so much work, and they were amazing. I just love this. Alright, we're gonna build a wall around them, just like his tactics. And he's so vulnerable, yet so powerful at the same time. I don't know how else to put it, but Caesar could put himself in a vulnerable position and just come out always the victor. It's just amazing, you know?
For patrols. Then, Caesar turned around and did the exact same thing again, this time facing the other direction.
I love this. Like, anyone else would have been like, oh man, we might be surrounded. We should probably leave enemy territory. Not Caesar. Caesar's like, okay, build another wall around us now. Oh man, I'm telling you, he thought outside the box, and that's why he made it so far. That and a healthy dose of luck, but, you know, like, I can't think of anyone else just thinking this outside the box, and it's insane. And you know, the Gauls, oddly enough, I think they did everything right. Like you would do, right? Coordinating attacks at the same time, pressuring the enemy. I think they did everything they could, and yet it just wasn't enough. Caesar was just unstoppable. It's insane to me. This entire battle is just an insane thing that if you described it to someone, it would sound like a freaking cartoon, right? Like, oh, he built a wall around the city and then built another wall around him, and then somehow like, it sounds insane, but the fact that it happened makes me happy, because this is like a Looney Tunes. The logic being used and what happens, like a Looney Tunes cartoon come to life. I don't know, I love it personally, it's hilarious.
Gap to contain his entire army, he constructed another set of walls facing outward. He managed to get all of this done in a matter of weeks. Naturally, as you would expect, Vercingetorix attempted to slow down this process by sending out raiding parties to attack the workers, but they were easily repulsed by the Roman infantry.
Did you know that in Texas, rifles can be carried in public without a license, whereas in Florida, no open carry?
Do you see what Caesar did and why he did it? This is where his genius begins to show. Vercingetorix put him in an impossible situation, where he either assaulted a well-defended position against superior numbers, or waited to be caught between 2 armies with even more superior numbers, or he could have retreated. Caesar created a 4th option. He made his own fort. He stole Vercingetorix's tactical advantage right out from under him. Now, if Vercingetorix wanted...
Genius, the man is a genius, I'm telling you. Julius Caesar, whether you like the man or whether you hate him, is just undeniable. His strategic and tactical genius is just... He's worthy to be remembered as one of the greatest of all time in terms of military, you know, leadership.
He was going to have to be the one assaulting Caesar's well-defended position. When Vercingetorix's reinforcements finally arrived, the numbers were huge. If you count the combined Gallic armies, they outnumbered the Romans at something approaching 3 to 1. On the very first day, the Gallic armies advanced. They placed their massive numbers of cavalry in front, shielding and concealing lines of archers behind them. The Gauls always had excellent cavalry, superior to Roman cavalry in every way, so this was a pretty aggressive stance. Luckily for Caesar, he had been collecting cavalry from all across Gaul for many years now, and he had just received some elite mounted auxiliaries from Germania. He sent them out to meet the enemy advance. Intense cavalry on cavalry fighting took place all day. Whenever the Romans thought they were gaining the upper hand, the Gallic cavalry would pull back into the range of their archers, and the Romans would get surprised by a nasty volley of arrows. At this time, Vercingetorix's forces pushed up and prepared for an attack on the interior wall. They never found the opportunity. Caesar's elite German cavalry regrouped on the hillside and charged downhill into the enemy, finally driving them into a full-fledged retreat. This time, the Romans were able to reach the lines of Gallic archers, who were easily killed. Somehow, outnumbered and outmatched, the Romans were able to hold the Gallic cavalry off, and all sides retired for the evening. The second day passed uneventfully, but that night a focused surprise attack was launched from both directions at one specific point on the Roman defensive line. A young man named Mark Antony heroically commanded this section of the line, and in Caesar's eyes, his leadership single-handedly saved the day.
Yeah, this is where Mark Antony makes his first prominent step into history, right? Like, this is the first... Also, in the Kings and Generals version of the telling, that's the first time he mentions Mark Antony. So, yeah, this is a very prominent figure in the following videos who's now making strides, and what a battle to, first make your mark. I'm telling you, like, the Gauls are doing everything, I feel like, correctly, but, like, at the same time, Caesar's just unorthodox approach and the discipline and resolve of his men just came out on top, Man, poor Vercingetorix. I think he could have literally won against mostly any other commander of the era, minus Pompey. But, unfortunately, he just had the misfortune of facing Gaius Julius Caesar, who is just one of the greats. He was in another league on his own.
Additional troops were called over from the far side of the wall, and the Romans were barely able to hang on for the night. Caesar knew talent when he saw it, and for the rest of his life, Antony would be his right-hand man. On the third day, the Gauls planned for an all-out assault. They began by taking some nearby high ground outside of the enclosure that was being lightly defended by some Roman infantry. The Gallic relief army then launched an offensive along the entire Roman defensive line. The thrust of this attack was a group commanded by Vercingetorix's cousin, who took his men up the newly liberated hillside and charged down it, attacking a weak point in the Roman wall. The small Roman army was stretched thinner and thinner, trying to defend the entire...
with the audio and, like, the earlier graphics detail, this looks like a computer game from, like, the 90s, right? I'm getting that nostalgia right now. I'm feeling nostalgia for a video I'm watching for the first time ever. But, yeah, it comes across like an old 90s computer game. Like, the audio, everything. And I'm loving the vibe,
The length of the wall at once. Caesar took personal command of his men in reserve, micromanaging groups of 500 men, having them reinforce sections of the wall just as they were about to fall to the enemy. Finally, Vercingetorix realized what was happening and got his act together. He threw every man he had at one point along the thin Roman line, attempting to break through. The Gauls were doing pretty much exactly what they should have been doing. Spread the Romans thin to maximize their numerical weakness, and then breach the walls to nullify the defenses.
Yeah, again, he did everything right, but the thing is, the Romans, especially Caesar's men, are just so much resolve that you could throw so much numbers at them, but they're just discipline and grit. They can hold the line even against numerically superior forces. So, yeah.
Caesar saw what was happening, and threw every man he had in reserve at this section of the wall. Caesar was now fully committed, but Vercingetorix's breakout was thwarted. The besieged Gauls now shifted their tactics, beginning to attack the entire length of the inside wall. Caesar's army was now completely surrounded, fighting in all directions at once. The Roman situation now began to crumble. Vercingetorix's cousin, attacking downhill, successfully breached the Roman wall, and Gauls began to pour through the Roman defenses. Caesar personally rode through his lines, stealing any unit he thought could be spared, and threw them towards the breach in the wall. In total, he was able to rally over 6,500 men, who formed a shield wall and held the entire Gallic army in place. Caesar then took personal command of his remaining cavalry, who were not of much use defending the walls, who, amazingly, managed to punch through the Gallic attackers at another section of the wall. The Roman cavalry then turned and charged up behind the Gauls who had breached their walls. The Gauls saw the Roman cavalry charge and panicked, not realizing that the Romans were stretched to capacity and that this was the last card that Caesar had to play. Many Gauls tried to flee, but it was too late. The Roman cavalry encircled the Gauls, killing or capturing most of them. Seeing this, the rest of the Gallic relief army retreated. This finally allowed the Roman infantry to turn and focus on Vercingetorix, who then was pushed back into the fort. He surrendered the next day. Now you see what Caesar was able to accomplish when he was put in an impossible tactical situation, and you can get a hint at how his brain worked. He wasn't necessarily obsessed with fancy formations, or complicated maneuvers, or classic set-piece battles. He had great sub-commanders who could do all of that for him. His thinking was always focused on bigger issues. Where does the enemy have the advantage? How can I mitigate that? Where am I strong? How can I maximize that advantage? How can I make the enemy tired? How can I make sure the enemy has the sun in their eyes? How can I make the enemy fight in the mud? How can I make them skip breakfast? His military talent, and you could say his political talent, lied with opportunism. He would take a situation and squeeze every conceivable advantage out of it until there was nothing left. And then, as with the Battle of Alesia, he would roll the dice.
And he'd come out on top. This freaking, like, Legend of Zelda music. I love it. I love this video. It's cool to see, like, ancient Historia Civilis. You know, that was fun. But yeah, guys, overall, another great, solid video. I loved his telling of my favorite Caesar battle, and I'm looking forward to when we get to the Rubicon, crossing the Rubicon, Civil War, baby! I say that so happily, but I'm really looking forward to it, guys, and I will be seeing you all in the next video, so bye, everyone.